Hello and welcome to video A3 in this series about autodidactic learning objects. The A series focuses on technical details. In this video, A3, we'll discuss how to build a graphical user interface with graphical elements and how to handle that in GeoGebra. My name is Jonas Hall, also known as the Mad Mathematician. Right, so you want to build a graphical user interface. Let's say maybe you want a frame. Let's build one with points and a polygon. This is where everything is going to happen. Okay. Then perhaps you want a separate frame to enhance some aspect. And then maybe you have some other graphical elements or some mathematical objects. Maybe there's a circle here somewhere. Right, I don't know. Depending on what you want to do, you'll have different things. Now, each object you can change. If I select this circle, for instance, I can select a color. I can make it blue. I can change the transparency. I can change the line type. I can change the line thickness, etc. So every object you can do this with. Please note that colors add up, so objects on top of each other get different colors depending on what color the underlying objects have. Okay, so you can change things. Maybe you think, I don't need to see these points, I just really want the polygon. Well, you can hide these points, of course, by clicking the little blue pearls or circles at the left there. You can of course go into an object itself and show object or not. You may want to have a background image. So what point was that? That was point F and that is point G. Here behind the text is insert image. You select that tool and you click where you want the image, lower left corner, and you select some image. I'm going to select the skydiving image, and wow, it's much too big. How do I fix that? Well, I right click on it, select properties, go into the tab called Precision, and I select that the corner 1 should be, was it point F? Corner 2 should be point G, and I ignore corner 4. That will neatly position that so that the lower left, lower right corners connect to those points. Should I want to change the position of those points, oops, sorry, wrong tool selected, I need to have the move tool. Should I change that, the image changes with the point. Okay. I may want to get rid of the frame now or something, but there you have it. You can insert background images. Of course, if you should zoom now, everything zooms with it. Maybe that is what you want. If it's not what you want, you may need to select, if you go into the properties, you may need to select for the image. In the position tab, you may want to select absolute position in the window. It will then be independent of whatever zoom settings you have. It will always stay in the same position in the window. Unfortunately, it will also be very big, so it's a trade-off. So we've got graphical elements, we've got background images, we can hide stuff. Maybe you want to show labels. You can show the label of that point, but maybe you want the coordinates instead. Well, go into Properties, and at the Show Label, you've got a list, and you can select what is displayed. Name and value will produce the name and the value, and for a point the value is the coordinates, or just the value, or an arbitrary text which you enter up here. So now that text comes as a label for the point. Once you've produced your graphical interface, you don't want the user to be able to move stuff any odd way. So you may want to hide points, but if you want points to be visible but not allow the user to change them, you can go into the object's properties and you can lock the object, and that will make it impossible to grab. You can't move it any longer. It's there, you can see it, you can control it with you know, if it's controlled by another point's position, then it will move when you move the other object, but as for now it's stuck, it's impossible to move. So this background, for instance, you may want to lock that because you don't really want the user to change your graphical user interface. I can now not move that. So locking objects is important. Also, you may think that once you've produced your graphical interface, you don't really want the user to view all these objects, because really they may want to be able to see the interesting mathematical objects you've done, but maybe not all the rest. So you can select something and assign it as an auxiliary object, and in fact you may have to go into the properties and select auxiliary object. Let's do that with these auxiliary objects, the circle, auxiliary object, and with all the distances, the segments, let's make them auxiliary objects as well. Now what's happening here? I can still see them, yes, but that's because this button is pressed, the Show Auxiliary Objects button. If I press it again, you can see that normally the user would only see the points. A lot of those are unnecessary too and can be set as auxiliary objects, but this illustrates that auxiliary objects are not normally visible in the algebra window. You have to actually go and open the style bar for the algebra window and press the View Auxiliary Objects button to show them. Of course, you may want to close the algebra window altogether and be happy with that. In fact, you may want to lose the grid once you're done. The grid is very useful for positioning things, but you may not want it now, so make sure nothing is selected. Then you get an on-off switch for the grid. an on-off switch for the axis. You can then also turn off the style field, the style bar. You can reposition the window to make it just big enough. You can show and deselect the input field, and you can even go into advanced settings, layout, and get rid of the toolbar, and thus have just the menu and nothing else. And here is your app. You've created a graphical interface for an app, and if you save this file like this, it will open like this, and if you export it to GeoGebra Tube, this is what it will look like. So this is basically tips and tricks of how to produce a sound graphical user interface, and that concludes video A03. Thank you very much for listening.